Good morning. I am here today in one of my very favorite places in all of Valley Center, and I am going to introduce you to Acorn Cottage.
Off of Lilac, down a long, bumpy dirt road, and over this wooden bridge is one of my favorite places in all of Valley Center. Hidden among the moss-covered rocks and the 100-year-old oaks is a child's paradise called Acorn Cottage. The symphony of the birds and the sound of the rushing creek are interrupted only by the distant sound of a neighbor's tractor or the occasional screeching of a hawk. Stay tuned after this video for an opportunity to win a private tour of Acorn Cottage for $4. The cottage was originally designed and built for Bill and Crystal Carter's first granddaughter. After months of strenuous work and meticulous attention to detail, their granddaughter Carly was introduced to her new playhouse. Before even walking up the steps to the front porch, Carly squeezed Grandpa's hand and looked up at Grandma. "Where's the garage?" she asked. Bill and Crystal looked at each other. "Well, honey, there's no garage." Carly shook her head. "Well, where am I supposed to park my car?" she asked. Everywhere you turn, you see the acorn theme. From birdhouses to door knockers, even the keychain for the front door is an acorn. All three of the Carters' granddaughters are adults now and have scattered with the winds. But I looked at the mailbox that only 10 years before had held Valentine cards, invitations to teas with fairies, and poems about creatures named wunks who came at night to wreak havoc on the cottage when the girls were naughty. It had been a few years since I had actually been inside. With the girls growing up and going their different ways, and my mom suffering from dementia, the thought of going inside was just too painful. But today I opened the door, and all of the memories came rushing back. I remembered sitting on a plane on a trip to San Francisco with Mom, where we came up with the perfect name for the playhouse. I remember the conversation where Mom tried to convince Dad that the playhouse needed a second story because, well, all good playhouses did. I closed my eyes and pictured Mom sitting on the floor in the middle of the living room, surrounded by dozens of miniature teacups and saucers, deciding the perfect place for each one within the cottage. And I remember the fun of finding just the right acorn gift for Mom for her next birthday. The living room leads into the tiny kitchen where the table is already set for a tea party. The stove, refrigerator, and hutch were all made by my grandfather for my sister and I over 45 years ago. A line from one of Mom's favorite children's poems is stenciled along the kitchen walls. The kitchen's the coziest place that I know. The kettle is singing, the stove is aglow. And there in the twilight, how jolly to see the cocoa and animals waiting for me. Mom used to recite this poem as she would pour hot cocoa into tiny teacups for her granddaughters. The girls would nibble on animal crackers and listen intently, caught up in the magic that only their grandma could create. More than a few birthdays were celebrated at this tiny table, while dolls sat in high chairs nearby. The kitchen is complete with vintage dishes, glassware, spice containers, even running water, and a dish drying rack. Stay tuned after this video for an opportunity to win a private tour of Acorn Cottage for $4. You're bound to find any utensil you need to make the perfect meal. And of course, there's a lot of food. Over the years, tours and tea parties have been hosted to raise money for local charities. I always love running into people in the community who tell me stories of their adventures at Acorn Cottage. Off the kitchen is the small bedroom. It has a Dutch door that opens onto the wraparound porch and a small East Lake-style bed that's just the right size for a toddler when it's nap time. A ladder tucked away in the corner of the kitchen leads to the upstairs bedroom. The room is stocked with plenty of books, toys, and dolls. It even has a standard-sized twin bed, which is perfect for curling up with a book or taking an afternoon nap. On occasion, one of the girls would talk Grandma and Grandpa into letting them spend the night upstairs, and they would almost always sneak in a kitty or two. As I climbed back down the ladder, I paused to take a look at what was such an important part of my child's childhood. Maybe someday in the not-too-distant future, I'll have my own grandchild. I'll sit there in the kitchen, on a chair that's much too small for me, pouring hot cocoa and reciting poetry as I pass around animal crackers on tiny trays with little pink roses and tell stories about fairies. But for now, I turn off all the lights, I lock the door with all the memories inside, and I head back down Brambleberry Lane to my car and dream about the day when I can bring the magic that only a grandma can bring back to Acorn Cottage. Someday. Subscribe to the Valley Centered YouTube channel before July 4th for an opportunity to win a private tour of Acorn Cottage for 4. The winner will be selected and announced right here on July 4th.